Why do some environmentalists fight to preserve infrastructure they might have opposed being built in the first place? Coming up on Architecture CodeX.
Architecture CodeX. If you want to see more, like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe.
Before America's love affair with the automobile, we had a long, meaningful relationship with the railroad. It made travel quicker and less expensive. It brought together the cities across the continent, and it might have been the most visible sign of industrial America's prowess. Everything from the trestles to the bridges to the coaches, and of course the locomotives, screamed with true steampunk power. Trains dominated the United States from its effect on the Civil War and the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869 through the 1950s, when the interstate highway system and jet travel changed everything. But even during that 100-year dominance, there were complaints. In the mid-1800s, New York City forbade trains in Lower Manhattan. In 1908, it completely banned steam engines in the city. People didn't like the smoke, the noise, and there were many fatalities due to collisions or engine explosions. Trains were kicked off the land, having to be elevated or buried. Today, many of the rail structures remain, even if their use is diminished or gone forever. Some have been repurposed. Others have been partially demolished or allowed to decay in place. One such famous example of a preserved railroad construct is New York's High Line. In 1847, New York City approved construction of the railway on the ground along 10th and 11th Avenue so the New York Central Railroad could ship commodities such as coal, dairy products, and sides of beef as far south as Spring Street, the meat packing district, and near the section of Manhattan Island with the densest population. Despite the West Side cowboys who rode horses in front of the train to clear the path, so many accidents occurred it was nicknamed Death Avenue. By the 1930s, as part of Robert Moses' master plan, the tracks were elevated. Riverside Park was created, and the West Side Highway was built for automobiles. Trains ran along the route until the 1980s, but by then the rail traffic was sparse. The southernmost tracks were removed in the 1960s, but when a big chunk of track was removed to build the Javits Center in the 1980s, the High Line, as a functioning railroad, was dead. The elevated tracks remain unused, and nature began a way to find home in between the steel rails and the wood ties. Nature always wins, with plant, insect, bird, reptilian, and small mammal life finding a way to prosper in the things we humans abandon. Various efforts to demolish or preserve what was left of the High Line fought it out in the courts. The turning point came in 1999 when Friends of the High Line was formed by Joshua David and Robert Hammond. Their goal was to turn the elevated railway into a park, a public space as inspired by the Promenade Plantée in Paris, which opened in 1993. It took a while to get the idea some traction, but in 2004, when the Bloomberg administration committed $50 million to the project, things began to move quickly. Construction began in 2006, with different sections opening once they were completed. The third and final portion opened in 2019, completing the almost 1.5-mile trail. In total, the cost was over $200 million. Like any well-designed public space in New York City, it attracts all types, including walking commuters, local couples carrying their bijoux frise, and tourists. There is a calm energy about the passageway, with enough architecturally significant nodes to keep the walk always interesting. And I think part of the attraction is the communion with the powerful constructs when infrastructure projects were big and bold and in your face. Perhaps some environmentalists consider it a victory of sorts, with gardens replacing the hulking steel machines on the trestle. The Highline Park was designed in collaboration among many firms: James Corner Field Operations, Dilla Scofidio plus Renfro, and Piet Udolf. I am sure there are many others, artists and landscapers, that had their portion in which to create. Like Central Park, Frederick Law Olmsted's masterpiece, the High Line appears to be natural in many locations, but the entire length has been carefully planned, including the species of native plants. This artificial naturalness keeps the linear park vital and adds to the illusion that you have escaped the rigidly planned and hard New York City streets. It has been a whopping success. So naturally, real estate along the High Line has increased in value and development followed. See Hadid's 520 West 28th Street in Architecture Codex video number 23. It's a great place to walk, free from traffic, and view elements of the city, or even special events that make New York City, New York City. Converting a railroad right-of-way to a walking or bicycle path has been going on for decades. We saw the Monon Trail was part of the urban planning for the city of Carmel, Indiana, in Architecture Codex video number 80, and it has happened in many places in the country. Let me know about such walkways near you in the comments section. Near my hometown, the single-track Putnam Railroad connecting Brewster to New York City, active as recently as 1959, has become a 12-mile-long walkway and bike path in 4 parts at this point, although connecting them continues to be a dream. And up the Hudson at the Poughkeepsie Railroad Bridge, what was once one of the longest bridges in the world has also shifted to a recreational walkway. Built in 1889, the steel cantilever truss bridge became the primary railroad connection between New England and the rest of the country, moving as many as 3,500 freight cars a day during World War II. The bridge itself is 1.25 miles long, across the 7 spans, and 212 feet, about 18 stories, above the Hudson. It was designed by engineers John F. O'Rourke, P.P. Dickinson, and Arthur B. Payne. The track configuration changed over time. Originally dual tracks, they were modified in 1917 to a gauntlet track, apparently allowing a heavier train to travel in the center of the bridge, slowly moving at about 12 miles an hour to traverse the entire bridge. And that shows the kind of precision engineering they use to optimize the performance of the bridge. A fire on the bridge in 1974 damaged the tracks and structurally compromised the bridge for the heaviest trains. Despite government interest, there was no economic incentive to restore the bridge, as highway trucking had supplanted the railroad and manufacturing in the Northeast had also declined. There were now 4 more highway bridges crossing the Hudson River from this point south, with trucks moving more and more freight each year. The railroad bridge sat dormant for decades. In 1998, a year before the High Line not-for-profit was formed, Friends of the Walk Over the Hudson was formed, and they took title to the bridge. Through a lot of effort, with both private and public funding, the bridge was reopened in 2009, and at the time, it was the longest pedestrian footbridge in the world. The Bridge Trail, now a New York State park, attracts about 600,000 visitors a year, particularly in the fall. You can walk the 1.28-mile bridge only, or do a loop that takes you over the automobile Mid-Hudson Bridge, built in 1930, just south of the railroad bridge. The walkway is a destination attraction, as I doubt if any pedestrians commute across it. If you do, prove me wrong in the comments. Also, considering its height, some people find the walk down the center sufficiently challenging, while others enjoy hanging over the rails. Unlike the High Line, there are public bathrooms and delightful food concessions on both ends. Both the High Line and the walkway over the Hudson give us 21st century people a chance to commune with the powerful past that built the infrastructure, that built the industrial powerhouse, that created the highest standard of living ever in the history of mankind. Train enthusiasts keep the culture alive, whether it is model railroading or full-size tourist railroading. Yet rail traffic remains one of the most cost and energy-efficient means of transportation per pound per mile, with the possible exception of the upkeep of the tracks and the right-of-way. That dramatically increases costs. However, it should still be part of any planned, sustainable future. Railroads grew and thrived because there was a demand for the services they provided. No one had to suppress or outlaw ox-drawn Conestoga wagons. Yes, railroads created the first generation of so-called robber barons, but eventually that was curtailed. So I find it a little bit ironic that government interventionists, about half our population, revel in the preservation of such structures when they are likely to have opposed the original infrastructure projects that created them. Perhaps there is a subconscious Schadenfreude which makes them seek out such adventures, the ability to walk across the carcass of what was once a powerful institution. Railroads, canals, aqueducts, roads, pipelines, dams, power plants all made our country great and our quality of life possible. Yes, it changed the landscape. Mankind has survived because mankind has always been willing to change his environment to build such things. This is our history. It goes back to before the last ice age. Homo sapiens is the only land-based species that is able to survive in every climate on the face of the earth. And at first we did this with just sticks, animal bones, animal skins, and fire. Our main survival tool is our intellect and our ability to innovate. In all climates, the first thing the human does is change his immediate environment with his domicile. A simple house protects its inhabitants from rain and cold and heat and hostile animals and insects. And today most homes are connected with a magnificent infrastructure that supplies water, electrical power, sewage disposal, natural gas, roads, and electronic information. And it all started with a person's good idea that was embraced by the many and not imposed by the few. It should not be a choice of infrastructure or nature. It can be both. A society that turns its back on the origins of its prosperity and power, denies the source of its energy, and denies its creative entrepreneurial philosophies will die. These modern parks were possible because the railroad and bridges brought us a new kind of prosperity that allowed us to innovate and eventually make them obsolete, and yet left us enough disposable income that we could prettify them for our entertainment. They should also remind us that the efforts to give us the life which we enjoy is not always pretty. It is too easy to focus on feelings and complaints when you are totally separated from how we build and repair our machines and buildings, or grow, harvest, and slaughter our food. It is too easy to legislate regulations when you don't understand the workings or have the responsibility to get things done. If that is too heavy to ponder for a simple YouTube video, don't think about it. Just take a walk on that former railroad bridge or trestle that once brought you the commodities you desire, and then sit and sip on your venti double berry latte while you eat your avocado toast and scroll on your iPhone. Just leave building to the rest of us. I recall years ago one of the best lessons I learned from my father. We had just purchased a new lawnmower and I was assembling it. It came with a new rear curved metal piece already attached, designed to keep objects from being ejected from the back of the lawnmower and cutting your feet. But the piece, which still comes on every new lawnmower, makes it impossible to back up the lawnmower whenever you're cutting around an object or near an edge, unless you're on perfectly flat, pristine ground. I asked my father why they would add such a piece that really interfered with the safe operation of a lawnmower when you could simply wear shoes and be just as safe. My father said it's because the people who pass the laws don't cut their own grass. I'm Michael Molinelli, and this is Architecture CodeX.